Thanks for joining us at PDMI East 2026. We're happy to have you here. My name is Thomas Hare. I'm the Chief Content Officer at the Performance-Driven Marketing Institute, a not-for-profit trade association that serves companies in the performance-driven and direct-to-consumer marketing world. On behalf of our CEO, John Yarrington, and the rest of the PDMI team, it's my pleasure to welcome you here to PDMI East in the Eden Rock. I'd like to thank the hotel for all their wonderful work and hospitality and assistance in bringing you the events this week. I'd also like to thank our team for working so hard to make this event happen. We have a biannual schedule, I think as many of you know, where I'll be in San Diego in the fall. It's every 6 months, but as we go through the show cycle, our team has really made our lives easier by working so hard, so we thank them. We'd also like to thank our 120 member companies and more than 35 sponsoring companies for their support, including Bluewater, the sponsor of this week's educational session. I think this is the 4th show in a row that Bluewater has sponsored education, so we're very thankful for them. They have shared some videos with us this week to share with you, so we'll get to the first one right now.
At Tommy John, a lot goes into our underwear before you do.
But now I've found my bubbly side with SodaStream.
Philips Air Fryer is the original and the very best.
So thank you, Bluewater. You can see them inside the meeting hall, I believe, at table 3. And we can scan, if you want more info on Bluewater, you can scan the QR code there or in our show guide to find out more. Before we get started, I really want to thank also all of you, all of our badged attendees. When you buy a badge for the show and you commit to the show, it makes a huge difference to everything we can accomplish together. So we appreciate you guys for taking part, for being here, being so interested in what we're doing as far as education goes, as far as the networking goes. We thank you so much. So with that said, I'm excited to open up today's session, AI Activations Grease the Funnel, presented by the Digital and Data Council. The Digital and Data Council is our newest PDMI member council. We have 6 overall, and Lindsey Carnett is a member of that council. We actually had a webinar about 3 weeks ago with the exact same title, where we had some agencies and service providers talking about the same topic. You can go to our YouTube channel after you watch this today and kind of get that agency vendor perspective. But we're really excited to bring in 2 big brands today to talk about their perspectives on AI. So with that, I will hand it to you, Lindsey.
Thank you.
And best of luck.
All right. Good morning, everyone. Before I get started, let me set expectations. If you feel overwhelmed by all the talk about AI, it's going to be okay. Unsure of why it really matters in marketing, maybe even a little concerned about falling behind your competitors, here's what you're going to walk away with today. A practical framework to grease the funnel, which really means removing friction at every stage of conversation. Now, I'm going to introduce our panelists today. First, we have Mario.
Morning.
He's the Chief Marketing Officer of debt.com. He can introduce himself because he has a very interesting background that relates to AI.
Yeah, so thank you for showing up today. My name is Mario Cordon, CMO at debt.com. My background is a little bit eclectic. I'm a chemical engineer by training, also an industrial engineer, MBA from Duke, and I've spent most of my time doing quantitative marketing and creative marketing. So as I speak, you'll probably see the geeky side come out very strongly, but I'll try to keep it tempered.
Great. And then we have Succar, and he is the head of growth for Bluevua.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Succar from Bluevua. We're a fast-growing premium brand in the water purification category. Basically, we're focusing on D2C, customer expansion in the retail section, and of course, performance-driven customer acquisition.
All right, so in engineering fashion, we have organized today's panel in 5 different sections. So first we're going to talk about creative development, execution, then signal detection, scalability, and culture. All of these are critical for implementing AI within your organizations. So talk to us a little bit about how you are using at debt.com and at Bluevua these facets. What do you do for copywriting, image generation? What are the watch-outs, and how do you use it?
Sure. So we're using AI very broadly and deeply. Anything from copywriting, image generation, videos. It's great at doing scripts, storyboarding for TV ads, Even music for the TV ads, we generated with AI, we key it in manually, but it's fantastic, right? Everything on the copy side is really, really strong, and it's not very complicated to use.
What are the advancements? Because I've heard some people say, watch for the hands, because you can always tell in the hands that it's not real. So have there been advancements when you first started using it to the type that you have right now in terms of creative?
Yeah, we definitely went from 7 fingers to 5, so that's a good thing, right? But yeah, look, I'm not gonna sugarcoat it for you. The video generation takes a lot of effort. You consume a lot of tokens. There's probably people out there that do it better than us, but we're mostly making 15-second videos with the use of AI. But to be fair, most of our Facebook videos are live person.
Explain the token part. I just had a AI speaker in one of my CEO groups last Thursday, and he talked about kind of like feeding the machine with tokens. And so for those that don't know tokens, raise your hand if you're familiar with the token terminology in AI. So there's a lot of people that need to know what tokens are. How does that work?
Yeah, so think about it like buying points and consuming points, right? But the thing about LLMs is they consume a lot of energy, right? So the companies that run them have huge electricity bills. Somebody has to pay for it, right? A $20 subscription on ChatGPT is not gonna be enough to generate these videos. Mel, I don't know if you have a different perspective.
No, you're absolutely right on that. Like it's you really, or at least what works for us in terms of creative development is we can't use videos as much because you got this issue with 5 and 8 and 10 fingers, but it does help us a lot with the script writing and the copywriting. So we were able to test a lot faster by creating, obviously, a better creative. It takes us half a day to create a creative and test it out. By tomorrow morning, we'll have it ready to go, versus it used to take us 4 or 5, days to get it done.
Awesome. So key takeaway here, more ads, more campaigns. So you can, there's a saying, fail faster. So you can learn how to fail faster, what works, what doesn't work,
Right.
and get immediate feedback.
Right.
All right, let's move on to our next pillar, which is execution. So how does this work? How do you actually execute against this and read the results? Because this is kind of data overload. If you're testing that many creatives, how do you parse through the information?
Yeah, that's the thing, right? So with the advent of AI, you get a lot more creative assets a lot more quickly. So now you have a bunch of stuff, right? But the process doesn't stop there. You have to set up Facebook campaigns or connected TV campaigns. There's a lot of execution. So I think the benefit is, where the power is, combining AI with automation. That helps you to execute. So I'll give you a good example that kind of like merges these two things of creative and execution. I wanted to test different permutations of 3 variables on Facebook, right? So tone, image, call to action, something like that. Those are 3 variables. For each of those, I wanted 4 options to test. Quick math, okay, here's the engineering side. 3 to the 4th power, that's 64 permutations. We would have had to test it 64 permutations. Somebody has to create 64 ads. We put it through our AI system that we built in-house. It creates all of the ads that we need to run. Okay, there's a little gap in there for execution. We have to load it onto Facebook, create the campaigns. That part we haven't figured out how to automate. But once it's running, this is a test that's gonna run multiple weeks. Every day, the system sends you an email. Mario, these are your top creatives, middle, worst. By week 2, ad 6 versus ad 10, statistically significant. We can stop testing. The rest of the ads need more impressions. It'll be done in 3 days, something like that. So we keep it running, right? But to do that before the advent of AI, it would have taken, the creative director would have yelled at me. These are too many ads. My people would have been like, are you serious? We're gonna set this up. Now I don't have to go to an analyst or anyone, it's just executed. So that's a nice, simple example.
And what are you actually changing? Because I have talked to a lot of people here already that said, oh, we're using AI just to change out the numbers, and we're using AI to change out this. Are you changing out the people? Are you changing out the call to action? What are the variables that you're testing?
Well, in this particular example, the AI generated everything. The headline, the image, the call to action, the phone number, everything, right? And we just iterated and said, give me as many permutations as you can. When we cover the next section, I want to talk about how we didn't have to test 64, only 16. But to answer your question, it created everything.
Mel, are you using it the same way?
Yeah, I agree to your point, but you gotta have the human judgment to it. So
Yes.
yeah, we're definitely doing what you guys are doing, but we're keeping the human judgment as a key, as the messaging, as we increase the messaging and we increase the CTA. So I'll give you a great example. We have 3 main units in our brand, which is made for large kitchen, medium-sized kitchen, and small kitchen or travel. So we're using AI in testing more and more messaging out there. So how we do it is, for example, it took us a couple of hours to put a nice water purifier with a dog or a cat, and AI helps us get the script written, test it out. Within 24 hours, we have a reading of how did that image or CTA performed. And we were very surprised to find out that one of our best ROAS was with a water purifier next to a pet. So AI helps us get there. But one thing I would agree with you on that is yeah, it helps create a lot of CTAs, a lot of messaging, but the human judgment is a key. So we cannot we cannot rely too much on automation.
In the AI world, we call this the human in the loop. And I'll share another example with you. We just got done doing a bunch of market research. We transcribed all of the interviews and then layered on an assessment, like a human analysis of the interviews, and then paired those together. And then we did a high match rate between where the interviewee said something and me as the analyst said something, and that was a high match rate. And so we actually went to our AI partner and said, hey, here's our use case, what do you think? And they're like, oh my gosh, this is a great example of the human in the loop. And I'm like, wow, if the AI people got excited about this must be good. So don't turn into robots is the key takeaway here. Don't rely on AI for everything. It's a tool, but you still have to use your human brain and your human judgment to not get busted also with the authorities that be too.
Yeah, I mean, definitely always look at the copy. There's going to be mistakes. There's going to be times where it's tone deaf and just going in the wrong direction. So I absolutely agree with Mel.
Yeah. I think one analogy I'd like to add to that is like, think about AI, and if you're doing marketing, and obviously we're all marketers, like AI is like your supercharged turbo in a high-performance car. You already have a high-performance car. You're adding a supercharged turbo to it. So you still need a driver. You still need a mechanic. So yes, it's a great tool, but the human is super important.
If you need any examples of high-powered cars, go look at the valet outside of the hotel. That might plant a seed in your brain. So signal detection. What is signal detection? I think this is a concept that you came up with, signal versus noise. What is a signal and what is noise? Can you explain what you mean by signal detection?
Yeah, so for the older crowd here, if you ever listen to AM on the radio, right? A lot of noise, very scratchy signal. The true signal is the music, but you would get the noise and all the interference without that, right? That's what happens in marketing all the time, right? Any number, any KPI that you're reading, it's just an estimate. The true number is somewhere within a range, right? That range is noise. The true estimate is what you're trying to find. So in the example that I gave you before, where we tested 16 out of 64 permutations, once the system was done collecting data for each of the 16, it gave us a message that says, you know what? the winning combination of everything you tested is one of the 64 that you didn't test. So it simulated the result of something we hadn't tested. And that's extremely powerful, right? But what you're trying to do is trying to use statistical techniques to read the noise, right? Because it's very frequent, at least with my marketing team, where, oh, we should turn off this campaign. I'm like, it only has, I don't know, 5,000 impressions. Let it run a little bit longer, right? That person would have been reacting to the noise and not waiting for the signal. So that's very important, especially when you're generating more and more creative, you have more and more signals. Just try to make sure that you don't get faked by where you're going. That's the concept.
Okay, and for a company like Bluevua that has these different types of units and they have different audiences, you have like the college students and then the families and then maybe young couples that are living in apartments or a more urban setting. Think about the different channels that you are trying to target these individuals on. If it is Facebook or CTV or Instagram, then the creative is probably different, hitting that different audience. And so when we think about personas and who your audience is, then how are you identifying what creative is working best per channel, especially with AI creative?
Great question. Short answer, speed.
Okay.
So it is the speed of being able to create creative to go after each demographic or each category. Like to your point, like we had earlier, before AI, we would do, it would take us about a week, a team of like maybe 8 people to come up with like 10 different scripts for 10 different demographics. Yeah. Where today it takes us less than an hour to come up with 10 scripts for 10 different groups. So, and then talk about the testing and getting the results back. So literally in less than 24 hours, you could get from A to Z.
That's amazing.
And that's, so speed. That's what helps a brand like ours who have different product models for different categories, different consumer demographics. So it really helps us cut down the time but again, cut down the time, but you still need a human judgment in it. So. And
are you using it at all on Amazon? Any tools for analysis? Because
yes,
Amazon's kind of its own.
It is. It's its own
animal.
Different animal.
Yeah.
You use it in the creative scripts, but with a human touch.
Okay.
We can't. Again, it's not on auto. We still have a human touch to it, but it does help us with the creative. Yeah.
Great. That's a good tip. We've not used it in the Amazon space, so. How about high purchase intent customers? Are you able to identify high purchase intent? Like, I feel like you must have some sort of algorithm that you've developed for high purchase intent customers.
So we're in the lead generation space, right? We provide financial services, help you get out of debt, as the name would suggest, debt.com, credit card consolidation, debt settlement, things like that, right? But it's lead gen, right? So we advertise, we take people to landing pages, they fill out the form, and then there's a call center process that takes on. The problem with that type of business model is that it's very easy to feed very low intent leads, and then you clog the call center, and that gets very expensive, right? So we are using AI in different ways, but the gist of it is you try to take your best converting leads, and you try to simulate them, model them, clone them, and you try to find them everywhere you can, right? Facebook or wherever. So that's kind of like the key concept. To be honest with you, for that part of the equation, we rely more on old school statistics, machine learning, logistics regression, that kind of stuff. But it can certainly be augmented with LLMs. Now, I do have to put in a word of caution. LLMs are not meant to do math, right? They detect patterns, they memorize pretty well. Yes, they can memorize that 4 times 4, they know the answer, but they can get it wrong. So we've tested giving the LLMs very simple analytical tasks, like we already know the answer. We give it to ChatGPT or even Claude, and they get it wrong. So just a word of caution, right? They're not mathematical engines, they are pattern recognition and memory.
What's the worst hallucination that you've seen in a campaign? Because are you familiar, we've all heard of hallucinations in AI, so can you actually trust it, or is it just making something up? This is a big thing in AI, why you need the human in the loop, because it can tell you, yes, there is a unicorn in the room right now, and we'll all look around and say, where's the unicorn in the room? Because it made it up. And so we have to look with our own human eyes and say, no, there's no unicorn in the room. So you have a funny example from a hallucination?
Yeah, I'll give you a funny one. It's not even work related, but going back to the power of AI to do copywriting. So I published 2 books last year. There's no way I could have written them without the help of ChatGPT, because I suck at writing, but it was my story. So anyhow, in this book, there's 2 characters, right? There's Bob and Jamie. And all of a sudden, like middle of the book, when it gave me a new chapter, it was creating characters that I didn't want, right? And it started hallucinating about Bob and completely changing. So you have to be careful. It happens.
Does anything happen with these
Not
dogs in your
particular,
ads, Mel?
Not particularly like an example, but I just feel like, with AI, again, if you rely too heavily on it, you get a lot of
That's the key.
noise. And so you get a lot of results. And then you have to have a human to go through all the results and see which one is the right messaging and so on. And from our point of view as a brand, as we grow, the message is clear. So if we rely too heavily on AI and too heavily on the results from AI, it could really impact our direction from brand messaging. So to your point,
For branding, you have to be careful. Yeah.
very careful, very careful.
This is a perfect segue into our next section. So this is the point here, don't chase the noise,
Don't chase the
chase the
noise.
signal. But our next section, we are going to talk about scalability, and this is exactly what you are alluding to right now. If you are doing so much, what happens when you try and scale?
Yeah, so let me give you a good example here, right? So going back to Facebook, what we've been noticing is it gets increasingly finicky. And I'm not saying this is applicable to everyone, but at least what we are seeing, you have campaigns that have been doing great for 6 months. They start deteriorating, they die. You haven't changed anything, it stopped working. You can create one ad, put it in multiple campaigns, and the campaigns are pretty much the same, completely different results. So anyhow, we would spend a lot of time with our team reviewing every single ad. There's no clear pattern. Sometimes it's good, it's dying. Do we kill it? Do we keep it? Do we put more money behind it? So there's a statistical technique that you can use for this purpose. It's called Bayesian learning. Bayes, B-A-Y-E-S, was the statistician that created it. I'm not going to talk about the algorithm, but we knew that we could use that algorithm. We needed a tool that could use that algorithm. So my choice was go outside, look for a commercial provider. I'm sure there's one out there. I'm sure it would be prohibitively expensive for our company, or pay someone to develop it. Okay. We took a different approach. We went with Claude, and we did vibe coding, which is the 4th item on the PowerPoint. Vibe coding just means you're not really a programmer. You're chatting with Claude or your choice of tool, and it's developing the code based on how you speak with them, right? How you chat with them. I kid you not, we built the system in a week, okay? In 1 week. Next week, we found a few glitches. We took them out. But this thing is saving us endless hours of decision making, and it's probably making better decisions than us, because the human touch can also work against you. We have our biases. That's my ad, that's my baby. I want to make sure it's, no, the data says kill it, right? Mm-hmm. So it saves us a lot of time, and that's part of the scaling equation, right? You have to find a way in which your team can generate more output for the same number of hours. With a complication like Mel rightly says, well, there's a complication. Now you're having so many ads, so much noise, that how do you do that? But look, if you have small applications that you want to develop, look into vibe coding, right? Like the alternative for me was, even if I went in-house and I talked to IT, it would have taken forever. Mm-hmm. So that's a good example of scalability.
How are you scaling, or are you at the point, are you building your own technology? What are you
No,
doing?
we're not at that point yet, but we're scaling. And one thing, before we scale, we have to understand that, okay, are we okay, basically what I want to say is, if your channel has a leaky middle, AI comes in and just speeds up the waste, right? So you have to really be careful as you use AI and grow and scale with AI. Is your system, is your company, is your brand, is your team, above all, ready to really scale? And so, yeah, we don't have our own
That's a key point.
technology yet, but we rely on, obviously, on AI, but we use it with caution. So it's helping us a lot, saving a lot of, obviously, money and time and people, time especially, but we really use it with caution.
And the big thing here is experimentation. So think about how different people within your organization are using AI. What are they actually doing with it? We have very expensive tools that we use that AI can't match up with based on what is out there openly, and we've tried to figure out how do we cut costs here, or how do we cut costs here, and it just won't go to that depth. But the way that different people on different teams are using it is important to look at, because then you could take it back to an architect, an engineer,
Yes,
somebody like Mario, and then figure out what sort of applications you want to build around it. And this is the partnership that we just set up with a company called Cogsia. Like it's allowing us to build different apps for different things that are helpful for clients. And so that is just a learning. We have a call with them every week to figure out, okay, now what are you using it for? Now what are you using it for? And so the concept of ideation around applications and how it helps you be more effective in your organization, I think is key. And big organizations are doing this too, like big technology companies and their HR departments, and in all of these different aspects, all different parts of the business, not just marketing.
Everywhere, right? Like everywhere you have a laborious, tedious part of the process, AI can help, right? So one of the things that we do in marketing is we listen to the calls from the call center, right? They're recorded because you have to listen to the customer, right? If you're gonna do good marketing. But you gotta, in the old days, you have to download the file, listen to the file, take notes. Now we built a little system, and these are very simple systems, right? Nothing complicated. It just goes through all of the calls, gives us all the insights, marketing insights, operational insights. The point is, you can save a tremendous amount of time, right? And anytime you save time, you become more scalable.
Yep.
Yeah. So idea here is make sure that you can become scalable. Now let's talk about AI and culture, because some of the biggest reasons why AI does not exist in companies is because people do not want it to exist in companies. So how are people getting on board at your organization, and what have you done to navigate that?
What we're seeing is different attitudes across the organization, right? No one is being resistant to using it, but the degree of adoption is very wide, right? Some people use it very casually. Some of my people are like AI-centric, right? Like that's all they do all day. And then you have the in-between, right? So one of the challenges for us is how do we build a culture that's more AI-centric? So that's one of the problems we're seeing. The other problem we're seeing is that the expectations are different by level in the organization, right? Like top management sometimes have unreasonable expectations, right? Like, oh, just use AI, we can cut costs. Not that easy, right? So I don't know if you deal with some of that, but so yeah, there issues are going to come up, right? Regarding people, you just have to make sure that you remain AI-centric as much as possible.
Mel, how are you guys AI-centric, or what? Does it come from the top down, or has it been fed up?
It's top down for sure, but also our team is rely on AI as improves clarity. So we're not replacing people. We're not telling our marketers and our brand managers, hey, AI gonna replace you, and no, just use AI to get the job done, to make the job better, and also gives you more clarity. So we're not a huge company, right? So it helps us. We're at a nice medium size where the communication channels are always open. AI is definitely a tool. AI, is definitely something going to help the company grow and take us to the next level. But management, bottom, middle, they're all on the same message. Like, it's a tool, it's not replacing anyone, but you gotta use it.
Do you think there is a fear factor? I just think about Chase Bank. You used to stand in line to go deposit a check, and then people walk up to you and they're like, "Hello, ma'am, would you like to use the ATM? I can show you how to use it outside." And they are getting bonuses on going and walking people away from the line out to the ATM, and then they're like, "Great, here's how blah, 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 blah." This is many, many years ago. And then there aren't as many people that work at the bank now, are there? There's mostly machines. And so I think there is a fear factor from some employees at companies.
Yes.
If you are in the laborious, tedious data entry type role.
I gotta tell you, many people on my team have approached me at different times expressing that they're concerned, right? Because you see the power and you're like, oh, shoot. I'll give you the best example. So we used to have 2 copywriters. Now we have 1. We don't need 2. Mm-hmm. The copywriter himself came up to me and said, like, "Boss, can you train me in other stuff? Because I can see the picture coming," right? So now he's a lot more involved in performance marketing. He still does a little bit of copywriting, but the point is, yeah, there's gonna be stuff where someone is gonna have to pivot a little bit in their career and find a way to do different things. I think it would be naive to pretend that it's not going to happen, right? But I think Mel has brought this up a lot of times, right? The human side. You have to find a way that as a human, you add to the AI, right? Mm-hmm. I can tell you, for me personally, the way I add to the AI is I bring all of my old school knowledge of statistics and I use the tool to amplify that knowledge, right? But you can't just sit there and not adapt in some way. I don't know. Like,
absolutely, I agree 100%. One more thing I'll add to that is, AI is learning a lot how human behave, how consumer behave. But I think, from our point of view, we're also telling our team, learn from AI, learn how AI works, understand how the model works, because it's also, you're going to be an expert in AI, right? So you learn, it's like, what's the old saying? You get to gaze in the abyss, and be careful the abyss gaze back at you. So same thing with AI. You get to learn from it. As it learns you have to learn it.
Mm-hmm. And I think another guardrail, just in terms of organizations, is the concept of employees using their own tools to go upload things out there, and then it's in public domain. And so I have had some HR speakers that come to different events, and they talk about, well, do you have AI policies in your company handbook, and how are people using it, and what are your organizational rules around using AI? When should you use it? When should you not use it? And what do you put up there? And is it actually in your agreements too? I just got a new agreement from an attorney who's an HR attorney, and there's a whole AI section in it. And I said, wow, this is a whole AI section in their agreement. This is very interesting to see. Are they putting my HR stuff up and writing my letters for me using ChatGPT and billing me a huge amount? This is crazy. So that's another thing to explore too. And I don't know if you guys have any guardrails on that, but it's something that is top of mind for me as a business owner.
Oh, you're gonna have to think about it, right? Like, we manage a lot of personal information, right, for all our clients. That can't get out there, like that just cannot get out there, right? So you're gonna need policies, you're gonna need enforcement, but the other side of the equation is you also have the ability to have a local LLM that's not connected to the internet, right? So there's plenty of LLMs, you can download them, put them on your own server, like lock it down, make sure it's not going outside. That's also an option, but right,
Agree. Like, from our point of view, like, it gives us clarity, but it does not know our customer. We cannot just give it the keys to the car and like, okay, you can drive it. No, because again, like I mentioned earlier, the messaging and the branding gotta be like, you gotta know who you are, where you're going. AI helps you, but if you give it the key, it could take you either direction, and that's where really be careful.
Yeah, and look, I mean, there's a lot of data points out there about really concerning behavior by LLMs, right? Like, not to review every single example, but in general, there's a bunch of examples of things where the LLM, the AI, has basically extortioned its developers to do something that it wanted to do, right? So you gotta be careful. You gotta be careful.
Yeah, and I was listening to a podcast on the way actually to this hotel from the airport, and it was about MedV, and they started upselling the customers and selling them drugs that they actually didn't need, like convincing them, like, you actually, if you have this illness, then you probably are going to have this one next, and then you would need this type of drug, and so you should buy these types of drugs. So again, be careful and figure out how your organization is going to integrate it and put some guardrails around it.
Yeah, some guardrails.
All right. Our piece here is adopt new ways. Any final takeaways that you want our audience to know about AI? Because there's a lot here. It's kind of like Pandora's box.
I would keep it simple, like going back to the title of the conversation, right? Grease the funnel. Think about every step on your funnel and identify where can it remove friction and just get started. That's...
I would
Mel?
say optimizing output without knowing what's the good output is to your brand is a key. So know what's good for your brand, what works, and so when you get the output from AI, you know which one is actually going to goes well with your brand messaging. So understand more, not just you're going to get a lot of results from AI. You're getting a lot of output, but what good versus what's not good is a key.
Mine is don't forget to be the human in the loop. It's like being the responsible adult in the room. Yep. So if you are the human in the loop, then you're not turning into the computer. So I think a lot of people get so far down the AI rabbit hole that you just get sucked in and then start looking at the tiny stuff. But if you can back up and look at with that 30,000 foot view, like what are we actually using it for? What are the outcomes that we're looking for? Then you can continue to be the responsible adult in the room. All right. Here are our key takeaways. AI doesn't make us smarter marketers. Your brains do. It makes us fast learners. Lean into consumer behavior insights. If you don't have your own tools, consider making them. AI greases the funnel by removing friction across creative, execution, decision-making, scaling, and culture. Any questions from the audience? Tom has a mic that he can get your question.
I do have a mic. Question.
Oh, there's one back there.
All right. Thank you.
In regards to creative, I think you touched on like you use it for copywriting, but are you using it to develop like image creative, like meta, not just from a static perspective, but how also are you using it for any creative that includes models and trying to animate that with AI?
So what was the last piece?
With any type of creative that includes a model, and attempting to use AI to try to animate or change that creative for future iterations.
Yeah, so we like I said, we use it quite extensively on the messaging and the content and the creative. But again, we put the human element to it. As we create it internally, we get to look at the message. Do we approve this message, this content, this creative that created by AI? If we all like it, we put it out there. And so if we don't like it, obviously we don't use it. So yeah, to your point, we created meta across the board, all channels, but we still leave a kind of like what Lindsey mentioned earlier, we leave that guard, that human guard to say, okay, we like this, send it out.
Other questions?
Just a question for you guys. Personally spent about the last 4 to 6 months deep diving into AI myself for creatives. So one of the issues I've run across, I don't know if you've run across it, with the usage rights in the image generalization, right? So obviously there's some of the big ones like Sora and everything, but not all of them really clear the image that you're generating for the video. Only like 1 or 2 do that. Have you ran across any rights issues with the images that are being generated from the content?
Very good question. Yeah, so we don't use any image created by AI. All our images are ours, like obviously, so we still have the photographers. I think some AI can never replace that because, you know, a real photographer, you already know your brand, your angle, everything. So AI could not give us a good enough picture of our brand and how, again, we talked earlier about the messaging, right? So how you want the unit to look like, the angle, and so AI can give you details of how it is, but no one gonna know how to photograph your product other than you. So yeah, we don't use any AI images.
That's the question that I ask to every AI speaker that's come to different groups, and I say, great, well, you're creating this, but how do you use it in advertising to have rights to it? And then they go, you should just talk to an attorney about that. And so.
Well, some of them with your subscription usage, you will have rights.
That's right.
Mhm.
The issue, though, is because only a couple will actually clear your rights, but you as a person or people that because someone still can come back and say, that looks like me.
Yep.
And file a claim.
Right.
And it's off. Right.
Yeah, I think that's going to be the next big legal piece. I think our next AI one should have some attorneys up here, maybe.
Yeah.
Anyone else?
You mentioned Claude, but what are some other models that you guys use, and do you prefer one over another based upon certain things that you're trying to accomplish?
Preference between one or the other?
Yes, different models.
Okay. I mean, I think this is probably, a lot of people would probably agree with this. Claude better for coding and vibe coding than ChatGPT. That's our experience. I love ChatGPT for copywriting and storyboarding. Like, I think, I just like the output a little bit better than the stuff from Google or other. I think ChatGPT has, at least for us, like the right tone. Some other AIs tend to be a little bit more elevated kind of language, more extensive prose. For me, ChatGPT just nails it, but I guess it's personal preference.
We got time for one more, if anyone wants it. Well, all right, how about a round of applause for our group here? Thank you all, really appreciate it.